Hey guys, so usually I get a lot of questions regarding how do I make my layout the way I want it to be. So I want to create a quick tutorial. I'll start from scratch to show you how you can make, and I'll give it a name, working with sections. And click on next. And just want to show you how you can work with columns, rows, sections, so on and so forth. It'll be a quick short video, but I just want to show you how you have a section and then you have a row and then you have a bunch of columns inside of it and how you can manipulate them to your liking. So I have a blank section over here. You could have any section that you add. So this is a blank one. I can go to add sections and I can pick any of these pre-made sections that are over here and I can manipulate them the way I want them to. So I can pick this one and I'll add this one underneath it. So we have two different sections. What I can do is I can click on this section and you can see how the blue highlight tells you where you are. Another indicator is giving them a name. So I can call it blank section. And so I know that every time I click on this, it's a blank one. If I click over here, I can give it a lead generation section, for example, right? So these two I can click on manage layout. Notice it's the last one in the uh, selection over here. And now it's called blank and lead generation. And you can see how when I bring my mouse over, it bounces around. So you can kind of work within it. Then what you can do is when I click in here, or maybe I'll have a section with two columns, for example, okay? So now I have two different items in here and I'll add something in there. So maybe I can add a form in one side and then I can add a video on the other side, and this might be, and maybe we can add some text above the form that is kind of like a heading text. So I can pick the title, something like this, and I can say fill the form below, something like that. And usually these are the type of scenarios you run into where you have a two column look, and let's say you want to modify the look of this, right? And so how do you go about doing that? Well, there are two ways of doing so. One of them is going into manage layout and then clicking on this name of the section so you can go deeper into the layout of that section. Now this might be a little bit confusing what I'm saying to some of you, but once I click on it, I go deeper into the layout. I have the row, and then within the row I have the two columns. See, when I bring my mouse over, they bounce. And if I click on the settings of the column, not the row but the column, if I click on the settings of it, I can literally resize it to my liking. So let's say I want to keep the form a bit smaller like so and keep the video bigger, it automatically adjusts the second one. If I keep it at 0, by default it's fluid, meaning they both will have equal widths. So if I drag it just out a little bit, now you can see that one is larger and the other one is smaller. This drags out all the way to 12 columns. 12 columns is how wide you can make your columns essentially. You can also change the width of them on how you want it to look like on a mobile device, just underneath it where it says mobile size. So I'll switch this view to the mobile view just by clicking over here. And if I see how I can still keep items in two columns if I want, or I can drag it out completely and make it a full width. This way I know that everything is stacking underneath it on a mobile device, while on a desktop it's still fine the way it is, right? I can click on this section and once I click on it, it tells me which section I'm working with. I can add a background color to it. So I can say, let's say I want a blue color like this, okay? Now what I can do is I can hit save, and it's making my color palette. What I can also do then is, notice I'm still inside the column, so I'll go back and I'll navigate back inside of the column, this column, and I'll click on it, then I'll click on the row, and then I can, in this column, I don't want to click on here. If I click on it, it'll just go to the form and I'll get confused. So I want to stay in the column, and I'll click on the settings of this column, and I can also add a background color to it. And that's how I have the background color to this particular column at the bottom right over here. So let's say I want to add like a lighter shade of blue, so it just looks nice and it contrasts and everything, and I can click save. It adds another color. But now what I have is, if I click out of it and click somewhere else, I have this, and then I have color in the background for this. So now you see how I created this look over here, and just by having it over here. What I can also do is, instead of clicking and clicking and clicking, just getting to the color, background color of this, it takes me 1, 2, and 3 clicks just to get to, and then the fourth one obviously over here. We have a shortcut. You can hold the shift key down on your keyboard, and when you move your mouse around, if you hold the shift key, it takes you directly to that particular column or whatever you have working. And if you hold on control on your keyboard, and if you bring your mouse over, it actually tells you what you are working with. So I can quickly hold control on my keyboard, so it tells me that I'm going to be editing the text. If I hold down shift, then it also takes me to the row or column that I'm working with. So these are some quicker way to get to something. So if let's say I want to make the video smaller but want to make my form bigger, I can quickly hold control to know where I am, and then if I hold shift, it actually tells me that I can also edit the columns and rows of the item. So I can click on the control, click the what do you call it, the column, and it takes me right over here. And now I can actually, I was in the wrong one, right here, shift, click, and then I can quickly move this around. So I can make something bigger, make something smaller. I can even do things like, if I shift click on this second one right over here, the video column, and I can even make that a different size. So let's say I want the video to be only this big, but I want it shifted to the very end. So I can click over here in the alignment of the column, and I can shift it outside. So there is this space in the middle that it created. If you look at the manage layout, we have this one, which is about a 4 column width, and the video, which is also about a 4 column width, if I remember. But there is this open gap in here, and that's mainly because the second column over here has alignment of left. By default, everything, alignment to the right. By default, everything aligns to the left. If I remove any alignment, it'll stick right next to it. If I keep it in the center, it'll stay in the kind of center in the remainder of the space it has. And if I move it to the end, it goes to the very end. So that hopefully kind of gives you guys an idea how you can work around and make a layout the way you want it to look like. The second column that I added over here, I can now quickly click on shift click on the column, and if I want to change the background color of it, I can just go over here and pick the color I want. Notice how when you change the background color, it also changes the color of the text. If the color is too light, it changes the color to black automatically. And then if the color is too dark, it automatically makes it white to make it legible. And again, all I'm doing is holding the shift key and clicking on one of the areas so I can get to its section, and I can change the width of it. So I can quickly make the page look like the way I had imagined it in my head. Sometimes, you look at some complex looks. For example, one of the features, we have a 4 column layout. A lot of people have questions that, how do I add a 5th column to this, right? I have 5 bullet points, not 4. Well, there are 2 ways of doing it. One, you can shift click on the column, now that you have the column, you can always click on this duplicate button, and now you have duplicated. Now you have a 5-column look, just like so. Okay. If you want to remove a column, you can obviously click on delete, and you can just delete that column completely, like so, and now you have a 3-column look. Now let's say you want to make this one bigger than the rest of them. I can just shift click on this, so I don't have to go through the whole manage layout and the whole mumbo jumbo. And I'll just resize this to be larger than the other two. So now we have a very unique layout where you have a really nice big featured item, and then you have multiple small items next to them. So just by, shift clicking, you can get to items a lot quicker. So you can see it says edit column on the side, so you know that you're in the right area. And if you are confused, always hold the control key and it'll tell you exactly where you are. Now that I'm very proficient at this, I can just quickly know where I'm clicking and I can manipulate it. But I'd hope after watching this, you guys are at the same level of proficiency in working with columns, moving them around, and kind of positioning items. I'll even add a new row in this area, and I can do a new row. And let's say I want to add a single column right here. So I have just one item in here, and in there I can put a I'll drop in a video again for over here. And this video is kind of large and taking up the whole space. I want the video to be smaller. How do I do that? I'll shift click on the video, and I'll resize it to be super, like this size looks decent, like for a video. And then I'll align the column again. Notice that I'm in the column, I'm working with columns, and I'm just manipulating the columns. If I put it in the center like this, it's right in the center. I can even give it a background color, like let's say like this, and then I can give it a border radius so it has little curvy edges, so your video looks really nice and presentable. It almost looks like it's on a screen of some sort, like a monitor or something, computer monitor of some sort. But there I have added a row. I can add another row with, let's say, 4 columns, and then I can add items in here. So without adding items, it's kind of difficult to move things around. But let's say I have 4 images that I add in, like so. And then I'll add some text underneath them, like so. Now I'm not going to spend time writing any text in here, but I just want to show you a quick demonstration that I can just do this very fast. I can make a layout the way I want it. I can click over here, and then I can just resize one of them to look larger and the other ones to be smaller compared to this one, so that you can create like a very unique layout. I can make one larger, one smaller, another one larger. It may not work well, but I'm just showing an example. So you can create very unique looks and layouts. So you can have like maybe not a text over here, but a testimonial of some sort with somebody's face next to it. I don't know how you want to create the layouts, but just want to show you how you can work with sections, rows, and columns. Rows are not all that important to work with all that much. Usually you manipulate the layout with either your columns or your sections. Sections are pretty much for you to just organize your content, so you can later redistribute it. So if I want this last section to be at the very top, I can just keep on clicking the up arrow and I can reorganize it and bring it to the very top. So just wanted to create this quick video just to explain sections and columns and rows a little bit, so that you have a deeper understanding of how you can manipulate a layout and make it work in your favor rather than against you.